Article 370 has acquired a permanent feature of the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's the debatable issue,
That's
which both sides will debate. Is that procedure followed or not?
That's correct.
The only two issues as I
Correct.
in the whole
But I'll
issue
hope and try and convince you that it is permanent. Yeah.
Article 147 of the J&K Constitution makes Article 370 permanent. And the permanency of the Indian Constitution.
Well, let's kindly see. The 370 was so Parliament converted itself into the legislature, into the Constituent Assembly of the state. I mean, it's unheard of. Yes, no means, but we'll show it. We'll show it. Yes,
extended different parts of the Constitution
that's right.
to Jammu and Kashmir. Now, if a particular provision is with modification, it says so. Now, it may be by provision wise,
Yes.
or it may be part wise,
Yes,
it may be by any method,
correct.
but it keeps on extending by the
Yes,
orders
yes.
which are passed.
Yes.
So, first one was provision wise in a sense. This one is part wise because practically the whole part was to apply
Yes,
with certain modifications.
that's correct.
To the extent that it is not to be applied, it is excluded.
That's right. That's the only submission. That's the only, and in any case, Maharaj, 1 and 3 are, 1 and the 370 are excluded.
That is from because of the first notification, separate clause C was made.
That's correct.
Clause C was made for Article 1.
So, Maharaj, this argument then doesn't take us anywhere because we are dealing with 370. We are not dealing with any other part of the Constitution. So we can, Maharaj, interpret the orders any which way you want, but it cannot touch 1 and 370.
The two major points to my mind are this. One is your submission that Article 370 has acquired a permanent feature of the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's the debatable issue.
Yes.
Which both sides will debate. Next is suppose it is not permanent. Then what is the manner of abrogating articles?
That's right.
Is that procedure followed or not?
That's correct.
The only two issues as I
Correct.
in the whole
But I'll
issue
hope and try and convince you that it is permanent. I will try and convince you. I know, Maharaj, your Lordship says it's debatable and it is debatable. There's no doubt about
So
it.
both things are debatable means both sides will argue this point
Yes.
out.
It's really debatable. But I tell your Lordship, Maharaj, why it is permanent. Maharaj, now, for the moment, Maharaj, because we have only dealt with the Constitution of India.
Debate will also be on the second point. I look at a debate whether
Of course.
the procedure has been followed or not followed. They will say we followed the manner of abrogation.
Absolutely.
You will say not.
Now, Maharaj, so far I've only referred to provisions of this Constitution. But, Maharaj, your Lordship will have to look at the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. Because that Constitution, Maharaj, was framed and cleared in 1957. So, Maharaj, Maharaj, Parliament could only exercise, if it takes over under 356, declares an emergency, it can only exercise the powers of the legislature. That's what Bomai has said, and I take your Lordship, you can't do anything more than that. Right? Now let's look at the provisions of the J&K Constitution, which will give you an idea as to why it's permanent. And then, Maharaj, 54 order was passed. They could have said, look, no, we'll abrogate 370 and be part of India without conditions and like any other state. They chose not to. And you will see that, Maharaj, in the Constitution itself. I'll show, Maharaj, it's better we look at the
There
Constitution.
is no dispute about the proposition. 370 remained in the Constitution.
Yeah.
So nobody is arguing that 370 was not there. Otherwise, where was the occasion to abrogate it? Only issue is whether it requires a permanent character, which cannot be touched, or whether there is a methodology, right or wrong, there is a methodology by which 370 can be abrogated.
Correct.
That's the first part of your argument, as I understand.
Correct.
And in the alternative argument is, even if you don't accept my first part of the argument,
The methodology
the
was wrong.
methodology was wrong.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt, but on this permanent statement, 370 is in three parts. The first part, our argument is continues always. Second part is transitory because it's dealing with what happens before the Constituent Assembly comes in and Constituent Assembly has to ratify. The third part is temporary while the Constituent Assembly is there. Just putting it in a nutshell, that's our argument.
Yes, you are saying, according to you, 370 is structured in a manner
Yes,
whereby some part will go away or become
Yes.
otiose, and some part becomes otiose because in 1957, some
Correct.
other part becomes otiose
Correct.
later on. So you say one has a permanent feature. That is our
The
argument. we
Constituent
want to-
Assembly effectively had a choice to exercise three or to allow one to
Till
continue forever.
1957. Your argument is all these choices were available only till 1957.
Yes, that's our.
That is your argument.
So much. No, let's not debate it.
In fact, that's why the explanation to B contains an exhaustive definition of what is meant by the government of the state. Government of the state does not say includes the Maharaja. It says government of the state means the person for the time being recognized by the president as the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir,
Correct.
acting on advice of the Council of Ministers for the time being.
Right.
Now, what happens when the Maharaja is replaced by an elected government in Jammu and Kashmir?
Then the elected government on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers.
Where do we get that? Because the explanation says government of the state means.
Well, I'll show that to your lordship. That's also there, madam. If it's part of the constitution, madam. I'll show that.
This explanation was introduced in 1952. This ex-
There's a difference of opinion here.
Leave it. Let's, you can.
Their case is that 2 and 3 may cease post 57. But some of us who's argument is that no, the entity goes if we read clause 2 carefully. So this is that difference of opinion.
So your submission.
Well, there is a government order of 1965 which says that Sadr-e Riyasat will be in the governor.
67.
Yes, 1965 order.
65. So till 65, did the Maharaja continue to?
Yes, madam. Then.
There were separate powers of Sadr Riyasat.
Yeah.
The
But madam, ultimately.
equivalent of chief minister is called the prime minister.
Yeah, that's
Long
correct.
period of time.
But in
Those
65, madam, it
capabilities
was the
were,
governor.
removed.
There's an order to that effect. So be.
Of Article 370 be a consequence which follows from the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir.
No, it's made applicable to Jammu and Kashmir by an application order.
No, but you're saying that this provision,
Yeah.
Article 147 of the J&K Constitution, makes Article 370 permanent. Can the permanency of the Indian
Yes, because,
Constitution?
madam, kindly see, the 370 was made applicable to the state of Jammu and Kashmir by an application order. 373, madam, kindly. Subclause 3 gives powers to the Constituent Assembly, no?
Those powers clearly
Those-
doesn't have.
That legislature doesn't have those powers. Ultimately, what happens is when you impose Article 356, you took over the powers of the legislature. Under which power did they exercise that right?
Not of the Legislative Assembly.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying, madam.
Mr. Sibal, how
But then
can
how
we,
is Proviso C will applicable?
Yeah.
how can, you are saying Article 147 gives the permanency to Article 370?
Because the Constituent Assembly, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt your lordship.
Now, can the Constitution of J&K give a permanency to Article 370 of the Constitution of India?
Exactly.
But that's all we are saying is that the Legislative Assembly does not have the power under 370 subclause 3. That's all that I'm saying, nothing more than that.
What you are saying is Legislative Assembly cannot exercise the power under the proviso to
Yes, yes,
clause 3
yes.
of Article
So what,
370.
then
That's
what,
not-
that's why they did, they converted the Legislative Assembly into the Constituent Assembly. That's what they did, madam. This is what is shocking.
The lighter side, the Parliament did it.
I'm sorry?
On the lighter side, the Parliament did it.
Yes. So Parliament converted itself into the Constituent Assembly of the state. I mean, it's unheard of. Yes, no means but we'll show it. We'll show it. We'll demonstrate that. At the moment, all I'm saying is, Millers, you cannot exercise, the legislature cannot exercise powers to amend 373. Yes, even some other body takes over those powers, that only powers can be exercised, is the powers of the legislature, nothing more than that.